How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Film About to Joe Me, Danny, and today we're coming back with another Friday and Friday, and today we are going to be reacting to, how many? 7 videos by one YouTube channel that we haven't checked out yet, and it's called Stephen D. Now, apparently this guy used to make, you know one of those YouTubers who, one of those animator YouTubers who talk about what happened on these certain things that happen in their lives. Yeah, he used to do that for like the first year he was on YouTube, but then moved on to telling scary stories. So yeah, if you guys want me to check out his story time videos, then let me know in the comments below. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and get to the first Stephen D video, which is called "I Accepted a Ride from a Creepy Man." Why would you do that? I don't know. I just wanted to see this video. So without any further ado, let's go and get started. I'm really hyped for this because we haven't checked out this guy in a while, and I heard a lot of people. I heard a lot of people at my school told me that I should react to this guy. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. So yeah, let's go ahead and do this. In 3, 2, 1, play.
When I was in middle school, I was constantly made fun of and picked on, and that ridicule transferred to whenever I rode the school bus. So I started walking 3 miles to and from school every day. The path I walked on was pretty safe, mostly on the sidewalk and always on a busy road, with the last 2.5 miles being a straight shot directly to the school. Back then, there wasn't a stigma attached to kids being outside on their own.
Oh, for
so
me,
this
I go to high
deemed
school.
Unsafe
It's kind of like a zigzag.
I lived alone with my father, parents being divorced, and my mother saw me on the weekends. He didn't see any harm in the walking, and my mother wasn't aware of this, nor that I was being picked on in school, so I continued for over half the school year. One day as I was going home, I saw a car pull up about 100 feet ahead of me. I thought to myself, that car looks familiar. Oh nice, that's my dad, he's gonna drive me the way home. I started to jog up to the car, seeing him in the driver's seat waiting patiently. His hair looks darker than normal today. Wasn't the inside of his car tan, not red?
Does his hair?
The thoughts left as soon as
his hair transition to other colors?
Opened the passenger side door and started to get in. As I was tossing my backpack on the floor in front of me and swinging my legs into the car, thanks Dad! Before I knew it, I had shut the car door and we began to move. This isn't my father. This man was much older, by at least 20 years. Hair obviously dyed black, and hands propped at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel. The shirt he was wearing looked just like the one my father would have worn. A short sleeve collar button down, brick red with black and horizontal
a Freddy Krueger sweater.
Not pressed but not too wrinkled either. He was smiling at me, which probably would have felt warm if it was coming from my grandfather, but instead felt menacing. I heard a click and looked over at the door that had just been locked. I stared at the door for a moment longer, then turned and
no, I'd be like, sorry, sir. I thought you were my dad. This is my dad's car, so I'd be leaving.
Give you a lift. I didn't move or answer.
Door locks. You're like
scared. Just act normal. His voice matched his smile, deceivingly friendly. We were roughly a mile away from home, and half a mile from the next turn needed to head in that direction. All I could concentrate on is how am I gonna get out of this situation? Are you on your way home? Home. Yes, I want to go home. Where's your house? I can take you back home. Feeling just slightly relieved, I told him to take the next right turn. I felt myself begin to breathe and I realized how tense I had been. My body relaxed slightly and I finally moved and wrapped my hands around my backpack straps. We started to come up on the intersection and I pointed ahead. The dotted line for the turn lane had begun, but he did not get over. Instantly, I tensed back up and my grip and my gaze on my backpack straps tightened. Don't act scared. Don't act scared. No, I really need to get back home. He swung the car into the turn lane and began to make the turn. Okay, see? Everything is going to be fine. He's taking you home. Are you sure? I'll make sure you get home before anyone realizes you're gone. Stay calm. Don't act scared. No, I need to get home now. My father is expecting me home right now. He's waiting. Okay, maybe next time. We can meet here at the same place tomorrow. Sure, yes, tomorrow sounds good. I just need to get home today now. My eyes were firmly trained on the road ahead of us, hoping that if I just focused on the direction home, I would get there. The turn into my neighborhood was approaching, and I informed him again and pointing towards that direction. The next few moments were silent, even though it was so loud in my head. Oh wait, he can't know where I live. No, what should I? You know, it's probably not a good idea that I drop you off right at your house. Your dad might see me and get mad that I gave you a ride home, and then we wouldn't be able to meet again tomorrow. I was able to appreciate the good fortune of my silent question being answered for me. My old neighborhood consisted of mainly apartments, but in the back were a block of townhouses, which is where I lived. If you were unaware of the layout of the complex, the townhouses might go unnoticed. He pulled over to the side of the road in front of the apartment building. He unlocked the door and I hurried out of the car. Backpack still in hand, I began to close the door behind me. So, see you here tomorrow same time? I paused for just a second so I can get another look at the man. Still smiling, still terrifying. Yes, tomorrow. See you later. Don't run, don't act scared. I swung my backpack on the right way and briskly walked in the opposite direction of my house. I could hear the car still idling behind me, and it wasn't until I was able to turn off that road and leave his view that I heard him start to move. He had to drive up to where I was walking to turn around, and I glanced back as he was making an awkward turn. He caught my gaze and gave a slight wave before driving off. I turned my head and kept walking, and the moment I could no longer hear the car, I ran as fast as my legs and heavy backpack would let me. I ran around to where I could hide between two buildings and hid there for a while until I felt it was enough time passed to feel confident.
Okay, now you're just being dramatic.
I ran the rest of the way home, keeping a lookout, making sure he wouldn't be able to see me through the backyards. I reached the front door, unlocked it, and almost spilled inside because I was moving so fast. It wasn't until I locked the door behind me that I felt safe. I was home. In the end, I told both my parents, and my mother forced my father to drive and pick me up from school for the remainder of the school year. My father didn't believe me and thought I made up the story to get out of walking to school. Well, it didn't matter. It was worth his disbelief and annoyance every day in the car, so I never had to meet that guy again.
No, sir. Yo, guys, do not get in any cars with strangers. I'm pretty sure you heard this a lot coming from your parents, but do not trust strangers or anybody you don't know. Because that he got out of there. He was lucky, but the dude said that okay, I'll pick you up again tomorrow to the school and take you back home. You know what I mean? Who knows that maybe at some point he would kidnap him. That is not a good feeling at all. Yeah, just do not go anywhere. Do not trust strangers or anybody you don't know personally. It's never good. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. This is the first video and I'm already loving it. Let's move on. Let's do this.
It was the summer.
Alright guys, this next one is called My Crazy Stalker Became My Roommate's Boyfriend.
A camping trip with her friends.
How is that possible?
She had the window open as she sat there folding clothes when she suddenly saw a hand coming through the gap in the screen of her window. Jennifer screamed and the hand flew back. She was stunned, but it could have just been her younger brother pranking her. She got up and looked out the window and saw the figure of a man staring back at her. Jennifer ran into her brother's room but saw him there, playing video games. They called the police, who came and searched the area, but they found nothing.
Okay,
warned her and her parents to lock the windows and doors.
I'm immediately speechless.
Just feeling that he would come back, and as it turns out,
open with the
mother's
hand
intuition was right. She went
get over here.
Back porch, and after 20 minutes, she saw a man dressed in black in their backyard. He hid behind a tree and slowly worked his way towards Jennifer's window. The mother yelled something to the stranger and he took off running. Police came back out and again found no trace of him. Jennifer never opened that window again, not even the curtains. Her parents installed some motion detecting lights and that seemed to be the end of that. About 6 months later, Jennifer and her friend got an apartment downtown together, excited as this was their first place outside of home and they were finally living in the city. The downside was that it was street parking only, and after a few weeks, Jennifer's car was broken into. Oddly enough, nothing was taken, but a single rose was sat on the passenger seat. This creeped her out for sure, but she vowed to be vigilant and safe. She always tried to park close to the entrance near the lights, but it was often difficult to get those spots and she would have to park farther away. Things quickly began escalating at this point. Jennifer's car was broken into at least once a week. Most of the time, a flower was left. But once, a pair of men's underwear was there instead. And even more strangely, a bag of Tootsie Rolls. Weird because it was her favorite candy. This made Jennifer wonder if the person knew her personally, and she started to become suspicious of everyone. There was a laundry machine in the basement of the apartment, and one day, Jennifer went down to get a load that finished drying. As she started to fold, she realized that all her bras and panties were gone. By the time the first letter arrived, she had already started making plans to move elsewhere. The letter described a love for her that had been going on for years. He noted things that proved he had been watching Jennifer closely. Not long after, Jennifer was able to arrange for another friend to take over her lease, and she moved in with a new friend on the other side of the city. It was a secured building and had an underground parking garage that was only accessible to tenants. She felt more secure, and the extra money spent was well worth the peace of mind. Things were quiet for a few months, and then her roommate got a boyfriend. There was something odd about Ashley's new boyfriend, and her friends were wary of him from the very beginning.
It's him!
For one, he reached out to her. Another reason was that Matt was very good looking, and while Ashley was a wonderful person,
why would you put this in the story if he obviously wasn't the stalker?
Was thrilled. She never had a boyfriend and really felt like he was her Prince Charming. Jennifer, however, thought he was weird and creepy the moment they met. She had deleted her Facebook account when the initial stalking began, but created a dummy account to learn more about Matt. It didn't look like he really knew any of his friends in real life. There were only pictures of himself, and the rest of the information was vague. Jennifer and her friends gently tried to discourage Ashley from seeing Matt. He technically hadn't done anything wrong, but he was just so strange. She would immediately get defensive and would shut the conversation down.
Didn't show any signs how he was strange.
Jennifer found herself finding any excuse to avoid coming home.
Obviously he's a stalker,
but she
but
came back home from work and found Matt on the couch alone, drinking a beer. Ashley had been called into work, and she told her that he could just hang out. Jennifer had no desire to spend any time with him, so she grabbed the beer and a snack and headed off to her room and shut the door. About 30 minutes or so, he knocked on Jennifer's door and suggested they watch some TV and get to know each other better because they both loved Ashley. Not wanting to engage in conversation, Jennifer focused on the movie. But at one point, she glanced over to Matt, and he was staring at her with a smile on his face. Jennifer snapped at him and said, "What?" as he just continued to smile and said, "I just can't believe it." Believed what? He said nothing and went back to watching the movie.
Okay, there's a sign.
He had no idea what he was talking about, but the interaction had every hair standing up on her body. She excused herself and locked the door to her room. Another month or so went on, and Jennifer had managed to avoid being home for much beyond sleeping and showering. Matt practically lived there and had even brought a bunch of his things into Ashley's room. Jennifer didn't want to move again, but was beginning to look for other options. On Ashley and Matt's 6-month anniversary, there was a huge bouquet of flowers on the table and an already opened card propped up next to it. Jennifer was curious, so she opened the card and her heart started beating through her chest. Without even reading the words Matt wrote, the handwriting was exactly the same as the one her stalker had sent. Jennifer had kept them as evidence and dug them out of her desk for comparison. The handwriting was unique and identical. Matt was the stalker. Jennifer called the police, and as they were on their way, she called Ashley and asked her to come over, terrified to tell her the truth because she knew that her heart would be shattered. The police took a statement from Jennifer and went to Ashley's work to get more information from her, and ended up breaking the news. Apparently, Ashley called Matt after and left a furious message even though the cops told her not to say anything, and he completely disappeared after that. There was no Matt or anyone matching his resemblance at the place he said he worked. Ashley had never been to his apartment because he said he would be staying with his friends while trying to save money for a trip to
poor
Europe.
Ashley,
his family lived out of state, and she said that she had never met a friend of his because he said they had a falling out because he was choosing to spend so much time with her. It was all lies, and in the end, she was dating a stranger. For all they knew,
this is interesting.
May not have even been his real name. He had left the duffel bag in the apartment that was full of gym clothes, but in one compartment, There were about 10 pictures of Jennifer. All were taken from far away with the exception of one of her sleeping. The sheets were current, so it had to have been at the current apartment before she started locking her bedroom door. A few pictures dated back to before the incident at her parents' house, which was further evidence that it was him as well. 2 pairs of missing underwear were there, and Jennifer shudders to think of what he did with the rest. There was also a Starbucks
I don't even wanna
with
know.
lipstick marks and a necklace she hadn't even noticed she was missing. The police never tracked him.
Probably not even yours then.
Jennifer accepted an opportunity overseas and got out of there. But ever since then, Jennifer deleted all her social media accounts. She became very low profile, looks over her shoulder wherever she goes, as part of her continues to worry if Matt will ever resurface again.
Yo, that was hecka interesting though, like for real. Like the stalker was stalking her at her parents' house. Then she moved to her apartment out in the city with her friend, and the stalker kept leaving strange things in her car. And then she moved again with a roommate, and the stalker got together with her roommate just so he could stalk her. I mean, you could say that that's a little too specific to be true or not, but I think that's interesting. True or not, I do believe that that is interesting. But let's move on though, because these are fire. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, guys, so the next one is called My Obsessive Ex-Boyfriend Threatened Me.
Athlete in high school, and with recruiting season a year away, she was under tremendous pressure
and what did you say, Leah? Is that her name?
As
Leah?
well as in the classroom. She was struggling to keep up with calculus at the time,
Alright,
so her mother
obsessive
suggested that she get a tutor.
ex-boyfriend
Leah had been going to
threatened
him
me.
regularly, probably 3 times a week for a month, before she met Josh. Josh had the tutoring session after, and they would cross paths every week. It had never
This
been more
dude
than
looked
a
like
glance and a
Richie.
smile, as she was
This
incredibly
dude looks like
shy
Richie.
and terrified of boys.
Bright blonde
One
hair,
day, her tutor had to change his
light
schedule
blue
and
eyes in
decided
the
to book
blue
them together. Leah was
outfit.
shocked and delighted when Josh started chatting with her afterwards and asked for her phone number. Eventually, they both began dating. Josh went to a Catholic school in another town, but because he lived in the same town as Leah did, he took the bus every morning from her school to his. This gave them most mornings together, and he was able to meet Leah's friends. She was a little taken aback when they didn't seem to like him. Leah realized that she's been spending less time with them and assumed they were just jealous that she had a boyfriend. As time went on, things got more serious in the relationship. That's when things began to change. While they always talked regularly,
Okay
Josh
then,
started
alright,
getting over the
Leah.
top about staying in contact with Leah. He would make her stay on the phone with him all hours of the night until eventually her mom started taking her phone away before she
That
went
is
to sleep.
absurd.
This relationship also started taking a toll on her athletic career. She was too tired to spend extra time training and started to skip practices to see him, driving 30 minutes each way to his school. Eventually,
That's not
Leah's
fair.
friend sat her down and told her how unhealthy this relationship had
That's really
become.
unfair.
She had isolated herself from them, and her entire free time was spent with Josh. At this
That's-
point,
that's
Leah
not
wanted
fair.
so badly to end the relationship. She had fallen out of love with him, and college applications were approaching. She had been scouted by no less than
focus on
10
that.
colleges, and her plan
time
was
for
to attend
Josh.
Brown University, her dream school. Josh's obsession with their relationship had taken a huge toll on his grades, and Brown wasn't going to be an option for him.
Well,
Leah
yeah,
remembered
that's how
telling
it
him
works.
That was where she was planning on
Josh.
going, and he freaked out, saying that he would never get in, and he begged her not to go. At the time, she was also recruited by the University of Illinois. Josh applied there in hopes that she would ditch Brown and go to Illinois with him. But that was the final straw. Leah ended things for good with Josh, assuming that would be it. Because he would
this
take the
video
bus
is
from her
titled,
school to his every morning,
Ex-Boyfriend
she still
Threatens
had
Me.
to see him. His friends who took the bus with him yelled disgusting words at Leah. Josh had spread a rumor that Leah had apparently cheated on him with a bunch of guys and then ended the relationship. Leah spent months getting nasty messages accusing her of having STDs and also saying some horrifying things. Unfortunately, deleting Facebook was what set off the stalker tendencies for Josh.
Poor
He wasn't able to see her
Leah.
face online anymore. So he started calling non-stop and sending desperate messages telling Leah that he loved her. While all of this was going on, Leah and her team was set to win the high school championship in volleyball. Josh showed up while Leah was competing and they saw each other. This shook Leah so badly that she ended up losing the title for her team, and it made her furious and heartbroken. Leah ended up picking up his call that same night and screamed at him, telling him to never contact her again. But that's when the threats began.
Oh no.
She got a call a few nights later from Josh. After he texted her, he had something important to tell her. Stupidly, she answered.
Why?
And he began to say how he was going to kill her. He was going to show up at Leah's house when her parents were at work, holding a rope and a knife, and make her suffer like she had done to him. He eventually went on to say he was going to get her before she went into school because he knew exactly where she parked every morning.
Just pick up the phone like,
and her
hey,
parents were
this is how I'm
never
gonna kill you.
going
No
to find
biggie,
him.
but
what Josh
listen up,
didn't
alright?
realize was that she had
His
recorded
phone
what
like
was
that.
being said the entire time
Oh!
and had it taped onto her phone. Leah hung up once she felt he'd said enough.
Yeah.
The next morning, she went into school extra early, much earlier than she figured he'd be there. Leah showed the school advisor the recording. She felt a deep-rooted shame as her mom listened to the recording like she had done something to bring this onto herself. The
Don't
advisor
feel like
was
that.
so alarmed that he told her to go to the police immediately. Leah and her mother sat in the police station all day explaining the story of her relationship with Josh and how it got to this point. The police then drove to his high school and arrested him while he was in class. As she was bringing food back to the police station for herself and her mom, she saw Josh in handcuffs, and he indeed looked like he wanted to kill her. Post-arrest, Leah got a restraining order against Josh, and he was sent to a mental institution for a short while.
Serves him
It's been
right.
10 years since this happened. Leah moved across the country where this occurred, and she finally feels safe now that she's far away. But anytime she gets a blocked call or text from a number she doesn't know, a thought goes through her head that it's him.
Yeah. Forget that. Yo. This is really good. This is like really good. Yo, but Josh was, he was something else. I swear. He started off as a nice guy, then eventually made her stay up late, and that took a toll on her grades and her volleyball matches, and made her stay away from the people close to her, like her friends or family, which is really not fair. It's not fair. And until eventually when she broke up, because that is the civil thing to do. The dude started spreading rumors about her that she was the bad guy, and so many kids around the school and people online were calling her disgusting, filthy names, and it was not okay. It's really not. And then the dude just outright called her and said, "Hey, yo, this is how I'm gonna kill you, alright? So listen up." Who does that? Who does that? Yo, let's move on to the next one, though. I'm really liking this. Let's keep going.
Max
Oh,
was
so
a new
this
college
one's told my
transfer student
creepy
looking to
roommate
rent out
from
a room on
Craigslist.
Fortunately,
Alright, we got
he
another
found a
Craigslist
nice
story
two-bedroom
on our
apartment
hands.
for cheap rent and close to campus, so it was the ideal spot. The girl who lived there was named Beth, and she was 29. She was tall with jet black hair and wore pale makeup. She seemed nice, although a little quiet, but she decided to let Max move in. During their first night living together, both of them went out for pizza, and that's when Max
Hey.
could tell there was something a
That's like
little bit
Domino's?
off with Beth. Throughout dinner, she kept telling him how much he looks like Shia LaBeouf. Max didn't know what to say, so he just shrugged it off with a,
Looks nothing like Shia LaBeouf.
even though he looks nothing like it.
Yeah.
When they got back home, Beth asked if he wanted to see her room. Her walls were covered in posters of Shia LaBeouf. She even had printed out photos of him all over her mirror. She owned all his movies, and Max didn't know what to make out
Ugh! She has a
it.
copy of
The entire
Transformers
night, Beth
2?
had to say
No
how
wonder
much
she's
looks like
creepy.
him, and now it's obvious that she's obsessed with the guy. A few weeks passed, and they never really saw each other that much. Beth would come home from work and practically run into her room and spend the whole night there. She had this creepy high-pitched giggle, and Max would hear her giggling through the
Yeah, no,
walls
I'm not
all
sleeping
night.
through that. Like,
What the hell could she possibly be doing?
it can't be that
Occasionally,
funny,
Beth
all
would
right?
come out and talk for like
Go to
2
bed!
minutes, and she would always be slurring her words, so Max suspected that she was drinking a lot. Sometimes Beth wouldn't say anything, and she would just stand in the hallway and watch him in the living room. Max would turn around to see her and say, "Hello, Beth." And then there would be this long, awkward pause while she gave out her creepy, high-pitched giggle. It was uncomfortable being around Beth, and she gave him the chills. One night, Max woke up at around 2 a.m. because he heard what sounded like the front door being unlocked. He came out of his bedroom and all the lights were off, but he could still see Beth standing at the front door. She had her face against it, and she was turning the lock back and forth over and over again. And every time she turned the bolt, she mumbled Max's name. Max Barker. Max Barker. Max Barker. Her standing in the dark, mumbling his name really freaked Max out, and it doesn't help that she kind of looks like the bigger version of the girl from The Ring.
Oh,
Max
yeah.
quietly went back to his
I
room
didn't even
to
notice that.
sleep, but couldn't, and just stayed up the entire night. Another night, he was watching Gladiator, and she stumbled out of her room and turned on the living room light, which forced him to pause the movie. She then asked if Max wanted to hear about her ex-boyfriend. It was so random and sudden, but he
She came
just
out like,
said
"Oh, hey, you
sure,"
wanna hear
and then
about my
awkwardly sat
ex-boyfriend?"
back to listen to her. 10 minutes into her story, and she was so riled up. She was screaming at the top of her lungs about their breakup. Max was worried that the neighbors were going to call the cops, and she wasn't listening when Max was asking her to lower the volume.
I bet you what
All of
Max
her
is going through
screaming, one
is
thing
what
she
her
said
boyfriend went
really
through.
freaked him out. She was in such a fit and yelled, "I'll slit his throat." Suddenly, Max had no idea what this girl
What?
was capable of. She was practically a stranger, and everything he had seen was becoming alarmingly disturbing. After a few more minutes, she told him thanks for listening, and she started doing her giggle again. Max got out of there pretty fast, and he had a pretty unsettled feeling about being in the house with her, and what's worse was that there was no lock on his bedroom door. He pushed the edge of his dresser in front of it to act as a little barrier. Max woke
That's
up in
smart.
the middle of the night to the sound of his dresser scraping against the floor. Beth was pushing the door open. He turned on the light, shouting at her to stop, and he could see her through the opening of the door. She was so drunk and had this insane look in her eyes. Max yelled at her to go to bed. He could hear her walk back to her room, and once again, there was no way he was able to fall back asleep. The next morning, when Max went out into the hallway, his heart dropped. He saw one of her steak knives on the floor by his door. All he could think about was how she was saying she would slit that guy's throat. Max confronted her about it, and she said she doesn't remember trying to push his door open. She says she doesn't even remember telling him about her ex. Max had enough. His lease was month to month, so he found a new spot and moved out. Not long after, Beth contacted him again. Max was at the movies, and when he turned on his phone, to his shock, he received
44?
40 text messages that she had sent him over the past 2 hours. They were all just insane texts that ranged from everything between "Hi, how are you?" to "I hate you." Max never responded, and he never heard from Beth again. However, he always wondered if he hadn't set his dresser in front of his door that night, would she have quietly come into his room and
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. You're looking like Michael Jackson with a knife. Yeah, for sure. Ah, that laugh. Oh my gosh. Yo, she had a copy of Transformers 2? No wonder she's demented. Alright guys, and this next one is called A Crazy Pizza Delivery Night Experience.
For a pretty popular pizzeria in her area. Initially, she
And we
worked
got
the late
another
morning
pizza
to mid-afternoon
delivery
shift,
story.
but when the
Let's
guy
do
who
this.
delivered the night shift
This
ended
time
up
with a
getting
female.
fired due to him losing his
Okay.
license because of a DUI, she was placed on the night shift instead.
Oh my god,
Lacey really
Texas?
didn't want this shift because you never know
I live in
if people who
Texas.
order late at night actually want a pizza or if they have other intentions in mind. Unfortunately, her boss essentially told her if she wasn't willing to work the night shift, she was fired. Lacey wasn't exactly in a position to be out of work, so she reluctantly worked the shift. The first month went by without any issues. That was until she had to deliver a pizza to a house that just barely made it to their delivery radius. Lacey put the address in the GPS, and the house was located in a pretty suburban part of the city. She arrived at about 11 p.m. The block was extremely quiet, decently lit, and mostly littered with modern townhouses. But the house she delivered to was a duplex. Lacey rings the doorbell and waits for about 30 seconds. No answer. She rings
My
it again and waits for
pops
another 30
used to live in a
seconds.
duplex.
Still no answer.
Almost 10 years ago.
She's standing there getting pretty nervous that something's about to go down, but thankfully a man opens the door. He looked like he was in his late 40s. Lacey tells him his pizza's here and he just stands there, staring at her. She asked him if he was okay and he responded by saying, "Yeah, I'm fine, sorry. I got off work not too long ago and I'm zoning out a bit." He hands her the money and she hands him the pizza, and as she's making change, he says, "You're really beautiful, you know that?" Not really thinking too much into it, Lacey thanked him for the compliment and gave him his change. She walked back to her car and finished the remaining deliveries for the night. A few days later, Lacey gets a delivery order from the same place. She heads over there around the same time as before and rings the doorbell. He answered the door very excitedly and said, "Hey, it's you again. How are you?" Lacey told him she was tired and can't wait to go home, to which he chuckled and said, "I know that feeling pretty well." As he's counting his money, he asks what her name is. Being tired at this point and not really thinking, she stupidly tells him her name. As Lacey was making change, he asks if he could have a number, as he'd love to hang out with someone as gorgeous as she is. Lacey's just standing there awkwardly for a few seconds before she said,
"Bro, she has 4 at best. Come on now."
He gets upset
and
I'm
kidding.
says, "Oh, okay. I see." They stand there in silence before she tells him to have a good night and walks back to her car. He says nothing and still stands at the doorway staring at Lacey until he finally went back inside when she started the car. There was a pretty creepy vibe from this guy, and she even brought it up to her co-workers and they also agreed it was creepy. Except for her boss, who overheard everything and claimed Lacey was making up stories to try to gain sympathy for having to take the night shift. A week later, there's an order from the same guy, and this is when it hits the fan. Lacey arrived at the house at around 10:30 p.m. As she's approaching the door, it quickly swings open to reveal the man, except this time he was wearing a suit. "Sorry if I scared you. I saw you out the window and figured I'd just open the door now so that you wouldn't have to ring the bell." Lacey was getting scared because there were no lights in the house, so he was sitting in the dark this entire time? And if so, why? He asked if she liked his suit, to which Lacey said,
God,
yes.
is weird.
He then asks, "Would you like to go on a date with me tonight?" She once again tells him that she has a boyfriend, to which he chuckles and gets close to her and says,
"Hey, how you doing, little mama? Let me whisper in your ear. Tell you something that you might like to hear. It's free real estate."
"There's no way a girl your age is in a serious relationship. If you go on a date with me, I'll show you how a real man treats a girl." He grabs the pizza box from her, throws it to the side, and grabs her by the arms.
What? Wait, what?
Lacey's officially losing her mind at this point and trying not to cry from the fear that was overwhelming her. She starts pleading with him, "Dude, please, I just want to go home. I don't want to go on a date." He just stares at her with the most sinister look and says, "I don't care, get inside now. We're gonna have a good time."
Bro has actual demons.
Into the house, and she's resisting as much as she can. After a bit of struggling, he lets go of one of her arms and starts grabbing something out of his pocket, which she presumed was a knife. Lacey used her free arm to punch him as hard as she could in the stomach. She quickly runs to the car, and as she gets in, he chases after her and tries pulling Lacey out of the car, holding the knife in the other arm, and yells, "Why are you making this so difficult?" She grabs her soda bottle.
I like the anime thing too much.
Go. He slams the door, and then all of a sudden he jumps right on the hood of the car and starts scratching and banging on the windshield. Lacey put the car in reverse and quickly backs out of the spot and reverses down the road, with him desperately trying to hold on. He's banging on the hood, screaming, "Stop the
just hold on for dear life!"
He turns onto the next road as swiftly as possible, and luckily he falls off the hood. Lacey slammed the gas to get as far away as she could from that disgusting
just run him over.
She drove a couple blocks down the street and kept making turn after turn onto other side blocks, as Lacey feared that she was being followed. Eventually, Lacey reached the red light and slammed on the brakes and just sat there at the intersection, frozen from what just happened. She began crying and violently shaking. It dawned on her that she came so close to losing her life. Once the light turned green, she pulled over to the side and just sat there crying. Eventually, Lacey gets the energy to drive back to the pizzeria, and almost immediately after she walks in, her co-worker knew something was wrong. She practically broke down in front of him and explained everything that happened. Lacey's boss even began apologizing profusely for what had just happened and for putting her on a night shift. He took her into the office and handed her the phone to call the cops. They arrive at the store and Lacey gives them their statement, as well as taking pictures of any marks on herself, as well as the scratches on the car from the encounter as evidence. She drove home that night and collapsed on the bed, and strangely enough, managed to fall asleep. She quit her job the next day, and luckily a friend of hers managed to help her get a new job at a clothing store. As far as the cycle goes, 2 days later, Lacey received an update from the police. The entire duplex was owned by the guy's brother, who lived on the left side with his wife, and the man lived on the right side of the duplex. She learned that he had been in and out of jail constantly, at first for robberies and assaults, but later on it was for other crimes involving a minor. He had been released from jail about 5 months before this encounter. When they arrived at the house, he was long gone and his family had no idea where he ran off to. But the police insisted they would find him. And indeed, they did, albeit not alive. She spent the next 2 months in fear that he would find her and finish what he had in mind, but the police contacted Lacey and updated her on the case. Apparently, he fled to another city nearby and attempted to kidnap a teenager walking alone on the street.
That was in the other story?
At the right time, and they
They're
were able to call the
connected?
police, and the police caught him.
That's
He manages
dope!
to flee, and the police chase after him. He blew a red light near a busy boulevard, and the van slammed right into the driver's side. By some sort of miracle, the driver of the van only sustained minor injuries, while the cycle succumbed to his wounds long before the ambulance even arrived. Lacey thanked the officers for everything they did and for informing her, and she walked out of the station. Lacey walks down the street and is taking in everything she had just been told. She doesn't wish death upon anyone, but after hearing about him dying, there was a feeling of relief. She was relieved that he couldn't hurt anyone anymore and would never have to encounter him ever again. Who knows what would have happened to Lacey if he managed to pull her into the house that one delivery night.
Yo. That was absolutely crazy. Yeah, I still don't understand why it said to be continued, but then it kept going. I don't understand that. Was he like, you know what? Was he like, I'm gonna make this a two-parter. You know what? YouTube's algorithm is all like, nah. Let me just play the whole video. But yo, I'm seriously liking these. Let's keep going. Let's go on to the next one already. Alright guys, this next one's called My Creepy Coworker Has a Crush on Me.
There were less than 15 employees spread across all the night and day shifts, so they only had a few people working during the day. One of these people was Dave, the delivery driver. From the first time they met, Dave immediately gave Sarah an off vibe.
Why does he have to look like that?
He was in his mid-50s and way too friendly.
This dude literally screams, I'm a pedophile.
That yes, he could be annoying, but no one worked harder than he did, so just ignore his antics. Sarah then recalled that when she signed the paperwork, they never asked her to submit a background check. And in hindsight, that should have been red flag number 2. Over the course of the year or so that she worked with Dave, Sarah tried very hard to ignore him. He was rarely outright creepy, but he was always just a bit too friendly. He would stick around long after his shift was over to talk to her and another pastry chef. He always wanted to lick the bowl after she finished making Rice Krispie treats. He would always stand in front of the racks or equipment or ingredients just enough that sometimes her hand would brush him while reaching for something.
What is wrong with you?
Dave always stood just a little too close. Dave was constantly asking Sarah about her life, what she liked, what she did for fun, if she had a boyfriend. Almost daily, he would tell her how a nice girl like her should have a boyfriend, how maybe a boyfriend would be good for her.
You at 50.
Sarah let this slide because sometimes older people can say things that were meant differently in their time. But then it was the concert invites. Every other week he had tickets to one concert or another. Once he figured out Sarah's favorite genre of music, it was almost...
that right there is me. That is literally me right there. I just be posting up like, oh, so she liked One Piece. Alright, I'll just talk about that next time.
Exclusively tickets to bands she desperately wanted to see, but she also knew that she should not go anywhere with him. Then her birthday came. He bought her a t-shirt and it was 2 sizes too small. He told her to try it on
it's one of those belly shirts, ain't it?
And proceeded to give Sarah his phone number. He didn't ask for her number. She said no. He asked the other pastry chef for her number, but she had her back and refused as well. He also brought 2 tickets from another band that Sarah had been wanting to see. VIP section, 21 plus only. He said he could get her in. She just had to go with him and him alone. This continued for a while. Sarah brought it up to one of her bosses, but they laughed it off as, oh, classic Dave. When he wanted a hug on his birthday and hugged her without consent, there's Dave for you. Offering to get her booze or pot, oh, Dave, you scamp. When he pulled up his shirt and showed his abdominal scar from a snowboarding accident, well, that's just Dave. No respect for boundaries, but he was a good worker. Sarah even considered having one of her big
Classic
male
Dave,
friends
there's
come
Dave
in under
for
the
ya.
guise of being
Frick
her
off.
girlfriend just to placate Dave. She was repulsed
That's
by
smart.
him, but he hadn't really done anything to classify himself as a predator. Besides asking for her number, he had never tried to straight up harass her, and besides the odd hug or two that she was too shy and afraid to refuse, he hadn't gotten super physical. Then one day, Dave was gone. His name disappeared from the employee roster. Sarah's boss asked to see her in the office. She informed her that Dave was no longer employed at their business. Dave had been fired. He was fired because
I wonder
Dave was
why.
a convicted sex offender. There is one
Whoa!
count kidnapping a minor from the mid-90s and another count that she doesn't want to think about. They had never background checked him, and when they contacted a friend in the police department, they found out that Dave had been lying on lots of paperwork, hiding the fact that he was a convicted felon and not notifying anyone when he moved. Once they brought this information to the police department's attention, they had a few more charges to add. They found out because apparently he had been stalking and harassing one of the clients he delivered to. After his termination, Dave showed up to work one day. He had a weapon with him, but Sarah never found out what he had. They told him to leave or the police would be called, and he ended up leaving in handcuffs. Sarah was extremely relieved that she wasn't there that day. It's been a while since she worked at the bakery, but sometimes she still thinks about how badly things could have gotten had she gone to even one of those concerts with him.
For real. What if she did go to one of those concerts with them? That is really disturbing. I'm not even gonna lie. That dude was so creepy, and also, I gotta say, I love that like boom sound effect that they do. It's kind of like that Instagram boom they use for dramatic effect. Oh, look here, I'll do an example for that sound right now, guys. I got a really interesting story to tell you. This one time, I woke up one morning. My belly was aching for something to eat. It was 9 a.m. Still breakfast. Walked out of my room. Went to the kitchen. Grabbed my favorite cereal, Fruity Pebbles. Looked so good. Those multi different colors. Poured into the bowl. Then I opened the fridge, and lo and behold, there was no milk in the fridge. Yeah, I don't know either. I'm sorry. Alright guys, so this last one is called Tinder Date Tried to Steal from me.
Dinner. She replied and said yeah, so I picked her up and we got to the restaurant. Things were going well. It was our first time meeting in person. We started talking about our favorite shows,
Hey!
which led to the
Game of
topic on
Thrones.
movies. Nothing suspicious about this girl. At that moment, we decided to go to a theater after to watch Captain America: Winter Soldier.
My
She said there
favorite
was a
MCU
cinema
movie.
nearby,
Well,
but I
at least
wasn't
in phase
familiar
one.
with the
I mean,
area, so
phase
I
two.
used the GPS on my phone and she helped me navigate. Once we got there, we started walking inside and I realized, oh, I don't have my phone in my pocket. I must have left it in the car. So I started to walk back to get it. However, my date kept insisting I just leave it in the car because we were gonna miss the beginning of the film. I mean, it's true I didn't need to have my phone with me, especially since we're
that's a
going
good
to watch a
point.
movie. But for some reason, I was feeling very paranoid
Yeah.
about it, and I just got this new phone
That's me.
about a week or so. We went back and checked the car.
I had to keep my phone in my pocket at all times.
Find it.
When-
I asked her to check her
whenever I
jacket
go
and
out.
her bag, but she said it wasn't there. A couple parked next to us, so I asked them to ring my number because I couldn't find it. And would you believe It started to ring,
Oh.
but it was obviously coming from my date's handbag. Very interesting. She took my phone out and said, "Oh, I must have missed it." I thanked the couple and locked my car, and as I turned back around, she was walking the other way, so I ran up to catch up and asked what was going on, but she was being very dismissive and was barely talking to me. That's when I realized this wasn't an accident. This woman was trying to steal my phone. If this had gone according to her plan, she could have just pulled the "oh, I need to go to the restroom" excuse and left during the movie. There's a big chance that she's done this with other people in the past and will continue to do so in the future.
Probably.
And just waiting for her next victim. So that was the last time I saw that woman, and I just drove home without her. See you later. If you have some of your own interesting stories, please send it to this.
See you later,
Like
thief.
this video if you enjoyed. Follow me on all my social media.
Yo.
And I will see you in the next video.
That's exactly what I would do. I'd be like, "Oh, you're gonna have to get an Uber home with your phone." Then just drop and just floor it. Yo, those were really good. All the Stephen D videos. Guys, please go in the description below and go subscribe to Stephen D. He is releasing some bangers, and they're really good. I highly recommend you go check them out. But yeah, guys, that's gonna do it all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the Friday number 11. And make sure to give this video a like. If you like this video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought, or what other videos I should react to. Make sure to tag that with let's tag that with hashtag New Year's, because tomorrow is New Year's Eve. So yeah. So hashtag New Year's. You'll be shouted out in the next video. And also, guys, let's see if we need this video to the 3 likes. That would be awesome, guys. And all that being said, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Deuces.